Hey, I'm going to get started this evening by just welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. This is our Sunday night meditation where each Sunday I get together with students and just guide you in a meditation session and mainly just open up to questions that you guys might have related to the teachings of the Buddha or anything that you're seeing here in Thailand or the temples or anything like this. After our meditation, I'll give you guys a little bit of a taste of what the teachings of the Buddha are, so you'll just have a frame of reference. But then if you'd like to ask any and all questions, you guys are welcome to do that. If you'd like to join for meditation, the way that we start this is with some chanting in order to ease into the meditation. And you guys are welcome to chant along if you like. There's chanting sheets over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself to get one, and you're welcome to even chant along. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. This is the way they use them as a learning tool or as a learning device. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer, or anything like this. This is just a way during the lifetime of the Buddha to commit the teachings to memory. It was a learning tool, it was a learning device, where now we use it as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. If you look at the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of this, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants, because he wouldn't have walked around and said, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me, right? This would be ego or arrogance. And by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't think of yourself as being above people or below people. So he wouldn't have created these chants for his students to be able to chant to him. But instead, if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, all these discontent feelings to the enlightened mental state where the mind is completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. And this teacher helped you out of the kindness of their heart. They didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you. You'd have a lot of appreciation, respect, and appreciation and gratitude for this person too. So that's where I suspect that these chants actually came from, is as students, either during his life or after his death. But we chant them nowadays just to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. After the chanting, I'm going to come in with some guidance, helping you guys to be able to understand how to meditate while we're actually meditating. It's kind of like going to be instruction to be able to guide you during the meditation. But then there's going to be a period of time of quietness where we're all meditating. Everyone here at the temple and anyone joining online will just all be meditating at the same time. Now, during this period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. You might hear some cars go by, a dog barking, a bird chirping. Someone here might cough or sneeze or something like this. This is all normal. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence, you'll cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. This is why you can eliminate these feelings, because it's your mind itself that is causing these. Oftentimes people think it's the outside world that's causing you to be angry or frustrated or sad or any of these other feelings, but it's actually what's going on in your own mind. If you have a craving for permanent silence during meditation and you hear a sound, you will cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. The mind in the unenlightened state craves permanence, but yet you live in an impermanent world. Things are constantly changing. So these sounds are going to arise, they're going to change, and then they're going to fade away. And if you're in meditation understanding that, when you hear a sound, you can be at ease and be peaceful. So you'll hear sounds during the meditation, and you can just know that they're impermanent, they're going to change, they're going to arise, change, and fade away. Then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting, and then that's where I'll just share a little bit of the teachings of the Buddha with you, but mainly just open up for any questions that you guys have. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times. It's kind of like having a tool belt and using these different tools in order to be able to accomplish your goals during meditation. But oftentimes people are learning in the seated position. So I'll share a little bit of guidance with you on that just to kind of help you get started. And then you can learn these other positions at other times. But just understand what I share with you are just suggestions or recommendations, because there's not just one way to meditate. If there was just one position to meditate in, that would be be permanence, and we don't live in that world. Everybody's body is a little bit different, so whatever you find to be comfortable, you can sit however you like. These are just suggestions that you might consider. So you could be sitting on the floor or in a chair. Maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa or in a wheelchair. You can sit however you like. If you're on the floor, you might sit with some cushions under your rear. This is going to help soften your seat. And then if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you might just choose to do this lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation in the lower body and cause pain. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. And then the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it, but it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up, or some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of anybody who might sit in a chair, on a bench, or a sofa, or a wheelchair, you can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed, so this is an option for you as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of the upper body, it's helpful if this is erect. With the sternum up and the shoulders back, it'll keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, because what meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities. So you would like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched like this, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid with the upper body, your mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert by keeping the shoulders back and the sternum up. Not only will it keep the mind attentive and alert, but it'll make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So I'm going to do some chanting. You guys are welcome to join in, and then I'll come back in with the guidance to help you. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakewa Wat Tung Mahakewanhang Apivateyami Sawakato Mahakewata Tammo Dhammang namasami Supatipano Mahakawato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang sammuno Sakato rokavitu Anutero purisa Dhamma sati satatawa manusrang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath as the air enters into the nose, or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. สัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเขวาพุทธังมหาเขวันตังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมโมโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังโอโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, good evening to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here. Nice to see everyone online as well. Welcome to our class. This is called Breathing Mindfulness Meditation. This is a primary form of training in addition to other things that the Buddha used in order to move his mind to enlightenment, but he used other things besides meditation. One of the biggest myths about the life story of the Buddha is sometimes people think the Buddha sat under a tree, he meditated and instantly got to enlightenment, and this isn't actually true. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that leads to enlightenment. I'll talk about what enlightenment is, and I'll explain to you how this meditation fits into this and why it's so effective at helping you. What enlightenment is where you train the mind to get to a point where it's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. You no longer experience any discontent feelings. You'll have eliminated the causes and conditions that are producing things like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of that can be eliminated from the mind by training the mind. As I mentioned, oftentimes people think that it's the outside world that's causing these feelings. But the Buddha figured out there's these 10 individual pollutions that are in the mind. And when you apply the tools and the techniques that he taught and you uproot these out of the mind, you can see that your mind and your life is becoming more and more peaceful and more joyful. When you get rid of these pollutions out of the mind, you'll notice that the mind is focused, you have concentration, clarity, and deep memory. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming, because in the unenlightened state, you'll have a certain amount of bitterness, harshness, and hostility that comes out. And oftentimes people think that that's being caused by other people, but it's actually coming from your own mind. You can remove the causes and conditions that are producing that so that you can get to a point where all your relationships are harmonious. They're really blossoming. They're at ease. You can get to the point where you're not even in a bad mood anymore, that it's physically impossible for you to experience a bad mood. In order to understand how to get to this enlightened mental state, you need to first understand what's causing these feelings so that way you understand how to eliminate them. What's causing these feelings is something called craving, desire, attachment. The mind is longing, yearning. It's chasing after the objects of its affection. It's like the mind thinks that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases it and chases it and chases it. It's like an unquenchable thirst, that the mind thinks that these external things are going to provide you with happiness. So the mind chases after these things. And if it gets what it wants, it experiences pleasant feelings. But those pleasant feelings are just temporary. They end up ultimately fading away. But if you don't get what you want, you get painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. The mind is craving permanence while it's living in an impermanent world. So for example, if you wake up in the morning and you see it's sunny outside and you get really, really happy about that, that's a conditioned pleasant feeling. That based on the condition that the sun is present, you will now be happy. But the problem with conditioned pleasant feelings is that they're only temporary. This is the reason why you haven't been able to get to permanent happiness. Because if your mind bases its feelings on something like the sun, when the sun goes away, you'll be sad or frustrated or irritated because that sun is not permanent. Or say you get really happy when your bank account balance is up here. When it goes down here, you'll be sad or frustrated or annoyed. The only thing that's happened in these two examples is change. That's all that's happened. But the mind in the unenlightened state craves permanence. It wants things to be permanent, not realizing that you live in an impermanent world. You can see this if you've been in relationships where maybe when you guys first got together, you were really happy and excited about this. And maybe this person was calling you, checking in on you, maybe inviting you to dinner and the movies. Maybe you're going on nice walks at the park. Maybe you were having great conversations and having intimate contact, and you experienced all these pleasant feelings. But over time, the relationship deteriorated, and now you guys broke up. And when you broke up, you might have been angry or sad or frustrated. Maybe you were lonely or bored or missing this person. This wasn't your love that was causing this. That's oftentimes what people think. But instead, it's your mind holding on and craving permanence. That as long as the mind's getting what it wants, which is this person to be in your life, the mind has a certain amount of comfort. But when you guys break up and the mind's not getting what it wants anymore, it's experiencing this change. The mind doesn't like that. And it experiences grief, sorrow, sadness, despair, and other discontent feelings like this. You can see this if you've had someone close to you that has died or passed away, maybe grandma, grandpa, mom or dad, brothers or sisters. You're not a bad person that you grieved or had sorrow at the time of their death, but what it was going on was not your love. What it was the mind was holding on and craving permanence. That as long as grandma and grandpa are alive, the mind's getting what it wants. It experiences happiness. But when the mind's not getting what it wants, it experiences anger, sadness, or grief or sorrow. And this change of grandma and grandpa dying, the mind doesn't like this. So one of the ways to say this is that the mind craves permanence. Another way to say it is that the mind does not like impermanence. It doesn't like change. When things are changing, that's when you have the biggest struggles and difficulties. But the way that the teachings of the Buddha work is that you can't believe any of his teachings. His teachings aren't based in belief. So don't believe what it is that I'm sharing with you here. You need to be able to see this in your own life. You need to reflect on your own experiences to be able to independently verify whether what I'm saying is true or false. So maybe take a moment right now. Take a recent situation when you were angry or sad or frustrated. Could have been this morning, yesterday, or maybe last week. Look at that situation with these fresh eyes, because at that time you might have been trying to blame somebody else for the feelings that you were having. But now look inward. Look at your own mind. What was it that you wanted? What were you expecting? What were you longing, yearning for? And if you would have gotten it, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get what you wanted, the mind got angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. If you can see this, you can have a real breakthrough to being able to see what's causing your feelings. Because once you understand that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, you can actually eliminate them. If it's other people that are causing these feelings, you'll never actually be able to eliminate them, because what you'll end up doing is becoming unskillful, is that you'll firmly believe that these feelings are being caused by something external, and you'll tend to push people away, or you'll push a situation away. This is called aversion, where you might have pushed away friends or family out of your life. And you can see that that didn't solve the problem, because if this person was the true problem that was causing you to be angry, when you pushed them out of your life, you'd be peaceful and joyful from that point forward. Or the second thing you'll do when you think it's something external that's causing these feelings is you'll tend to be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal, trying to fear them into doing things your way. Or the third thing you'll do is you'll tend to put expectations on people, trying to pressure them to be able to do things your way. And people might actually be doing this to you too, where they're pushing you away. They're being bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, or they're putting their expectations on you. And you can't live harmoniously this way with other beings, because it's only a matter of time before you experience somebody that's doing things differently than you. There's only one person in the world that actually does things your way 100% of the time. Do you know who this person is? Yeah. It's yourself. You're the only one. So if you can only be happy and peaceful when people do things your way, you can only be happy and peaceful with yourself. And you might actually have trouble doing that from time to time, right? So I'm going to stop here in a little bit and open up for questions, but I'm going to share with you about how the meditation wraps into all of this. But before I get to that, I would like to just let you know when we get to the question period, if you guys would like to ask questions, we have microphones in the center of the room there in the white bowl. We have some up here as well. If you guys could get a microphone and press the gray button, the lights will come on. And then if you hold this up to your chin, we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then you can keep these microphones with you because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, or you can just kind of share it with them, right? And then if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that'll be helpful so we don't get feedback through the speakers. And anybody who's online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any and all questions that you like. So this craving, desire, attachment, this clinging, this wanting and expecting that the mind has, the mind will hold on. It'll cling to things, craving for it to be permanent. It's my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my husband, my wife, my money, my phone, my clothes, my jewelry. The mind will hold on very tightly. And then when things start changing, your mind doesn't like it. So if you ever washed your clothes and you got your clothes out of the washing machine and they were ripped and torn, and you got frustrated and angry about that, that's your mind craving permanence. These clothes aren't permanent. If you can remember when we were a child, we went to our parents and we said, Mommy and Daddy, can I have some chocolate and ice cream? They said, sure, here you go. Here's your chocolate and ice cream. We were like, thank you, Mommy and Daddy. You're the best Mommy and Daddy ever. And then the next day came around and we were like, Mommy and Daddy, can I have some chocolate and ice cream? And they're like, sure, here you go. Here's your chocolate and ice cream. And we're like, thank you. You're so great. We were so happy with our chocolate and ice cream. But then the third day came around and we asked for chocolate and ice cream and they said, no, you can't have chocolate and ice cream. You're the worst Mommy and Daddy ever, right? We were angry and we were frustrated and we thought it was Mom and Dad that were causing that, but it was our own mind because our mind wasn't getting our craving fulfilled. You can see this if you were maybe going to an airport and you went to the airport so excited to go to Thailand. You just couldn't wait to get there, right? They have mango and sticky rice. They have massages. They have elephants to play with. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to get to Thailand, right? And then you show up and your flight's delayed or it's canceled. And you notice this anger and frustration coming up. This isn't the airline company that's causing it. It's the mind craving permanence. I want every single flight to take off on time. This isn't possible. Well, maybe you think that other people's flights can be late. You probably don't mind that. But if my flights are late, this is where the mind's angry and frustrated sometimes. If you have a craving for permanence, because there's going to be weather issues, there's going to be a crew issue, there's going to be a maintenance issue. It's only a matter of time before you fly enough that you're going to experience a delay, right? This is impermanence. It's normal, but the mind craves permanence. Let's just say you got a brand new car and you were so excited about this car and you drove this car to the store and you went inside and you came out and there's a scratch on your car and you got frustrated. This isn't the scratch that's causing it. And it's not the person who scratched your car. It's the mind craving permanence. I want this car to look permanently beautiful. where it's not possible. The paint's going to fade, the tires are going to need to be changed, the upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. This car is going to deteriorate over time. But with a craving for permanence, the mind will cause itself to be angry or frustrated or annoyed. So when we get to the question period, if you're having difficulty seeing that it's your own mind causing these feelings, let me know, because I've had plenty of people over the years that needed help with this. In fact, I'll tell you one of the stories that there's one student one time called me up and they said, David, I really need your help. I said, okay, sure. What's going on? They said, I know that you teach that it's my own mind that's causing these feelings, but I'm sure it's my wife that's causing these feelings. And I said, okay, sure. What's going on? They said, well, I went to work the other day and my house looked really nice. It looked really beautiful. And when I came home after 8 hours of working, really tired, I walked in and I saw that she had this craft project all over the house. And I instantly got angry and frustrated. How did my mind cause this? I wasn't even there. She's the one who messed up the house. Why did I cause this? Why was it my mind that caused this frustration? Didn't she cause it? And I said, no, she didn't cause your anger and frustration. It was your mind craving permanence. You were wanting and expecting this house to look permanently beautiful, to look a certain way. The only thing you've experienced here is change. Your house can't look that way permanently. It's not possible. And this craft project that your wife has all over the house, that's not permanent either. She's going to eventually put it away. So the mind holds on and craves this permanence. So this meditation that we just did, the breathing mindfulness meditation, when you're focused on the breath and the mind moves off the breath, that's your mindfulness. When you notice that it's moved off the breath, when you cut it off and let it go and come back to the breath, you're building this internal mechanism in your mind to be able to cut off and let go, cut off and let go, cut off and let go. Because now when you're at the airport and you're checking in, and they tell you your flight's delayed or it's canceled, and you notice the anger arising, you can cut it off and let it go. You're not suppressing your feelings or repressing them. You're actually cutting it off and letting it go before it even becomes a feeling. There's these bodily sensations that you have that maybe with anger, it's tingling in the body, tightening in the chest, tightening in the throat, heat in the face, pressure in the skull. This is the early warning system alerting you that you're about to experience some anger in the mind. And if you notice that with your mindfulness, you can cut it off and let it go. So if you practice this meditation enough over a consistent long-term period, whenever you notice anger or guilt or shame or fear or stress or anxiety or any of these feelings starting to arise, you can cut it off and let it go. And if you do this enough and apply all the other techniques that the Buddha teaches, because there's other things besides meditation, you can get to the point where it never arises, that the causes and conditions that produce these feelings doesn't exist in your mind anymore, and it just never arises. By the time you get to enlightenment, it's physically impossible for you to become angry. Even if you tried to force yourself to become angry, you just wouldn't be able to do it. So this meditation, the goal isn't to eliminate your thoughts. Sometimes that's what people think, that when they're in meditation, they have a lot of thoughts. They're like, oh, I'm bad at meditation. I'm not going to do meditation anymore. I'm not really good at it. That's not actually true. Even an enlightened being has thoughts during meditation. The goal is to notice your thoughts sooner and sooner and cut them off and let them go easier and easier. And this builds this internal mechanism to be able to let go, let go, let go. So in meditation, you're cutting off everything and anything that's coming up. But then in your day-to-day life, you only cut off the unwholesome thoughts. If you're thinking about calling your mom and checking in on her, or maybe inviting her out to dinner or lunch or something like that, you don't need to cut that off in day-to-day life if you have that thought. But if you're thinking about punching your boss in the face, cut that off. It's going to produce unwholesome results for you, right? So if you notice that thought, cut that off. That's unwholesome, right? So in your meditation, you're cutting off everything and anything because you're building that internal mechanism to be able to let go. But then in your day-to-day life, you're cutting off only the unwholesome thoughts. And there's other techniques and other things that the Buddha taught too, but this is kind of like a core aspect of his teachings, because what you're doing is you're removing the causes and conditions that are producing the discontent feelings. One of the other things he taught, in addition to all the other things, is he taught generosity, to give and share with the people around you. Because With the craving, desire, attachment in the mind will be somewhat selfish and it'll hold on to things very tightly. And if you practice generosity where you're giving and sharing without any expectation of anything in return, this will help your mind to be trained to let go. But you need to do this without any expectation of anything in return. Because if you're standing there holding the door for somebody, thinking that you're practicing generosity, and then when they walk through the door and they don't say thank you and you get angry or frustrated, that's your mind that's causing that. Because the mind's expecting every single person who walks through this door to say thank you. Maybe when you walk through the door, you say thank you, but not everybody will, because the world is impermanent. Some people will say thank you, some people won't. It's normal, but the mind will crave permanence. So you need to get to the point where when you're practicing generosity, you're giving and sharing with the people around you, such as your time, effort, energy, and resources, that you don't even have an expectation, a longing, a yearning for something like a thank you. Sometimes people will say thank you and sometimes they won't. That's their choice. But for you, you need to practice generosity where you don't have a craving or an expectation of wanting something in return. And all of this with other teachings is training your mind to let go. And over time, you can completely eliminate the discontent feelings because the causes and conditions that are inside your mind can be uprooted and eliminated to the point where your mind's completely peaceful and joyful. This is the enlightened mental state. So do you guys have any questions that you guys would like to ask about anything that I'm sharing or anything that you're seeing yourself, anything you're seeing at the temples? You're welcome to use a microphone. I see, sir, you picked up a microphone. You're welcome to ask your question. And then for those of you guys online, you can put it into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. So yes, sir, you have a question?
Yeah, I noticed in the chanting guide that they say respect to the perfect enlightened one. I pay respect to the awakened. My question is, what if somebody doesn't have respect, even for themselves?
Mm-hmm. So what you're doing on the path to enlightenment is you're cultivating respect for yourself and for others. Oftentimes when you come to the path, you're not going to have respect. And that's normal that your mind has these pollutions that the Buddha discovered. And because of that, it's not going to have the brightness and the radiance and the joy that you can experience in the enlightened mental state. So if you don't have these qualities, it's normal. But what you're doing on the path to enlightenment is instead of staying where you're at, you're growing and developing to become a better and better person. And then that is what's going to help you to be able to experience where you have gratitude and respect for others. It's challenging for the unenlightened mind to have respect for others sometimes, but keep in mind that having respect for someone doesn't mean that you're putting yourself below them, that you're subservient to someone. That's what some people think. They think if I respect this person, somehow I'm putting myself below them. That's what the unenlightened mind does, is it has this pecking order in the mind. It wants to think of itself as being above or below people, and this is going to cause you difficulties in your relationships. If you put yourself above people and you look down on people, then those people are going to push you aside. But if you put yourself below people and you're all shaken up when you're like around your boss or something, that's going to show a lack of confidence, and now it's going to suffer in your career and in your professional life. So you'd like to get to the point where you just think of everybody as being equal, and respecting somebody doesn't mean you're putting yourself below people. It just means you're being polite and kind and friendly and respectful. So if you see someone on the street sweeping the street, it can be like, hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. How are you? Good morning. If you see the king or queen of Thailand walking down the street, which I don't think you will, but if you did, you could say, hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. How are you? Good morning. You treat everybody exactly the same. But what the mind does in the unenlightened state, because of what's called conceit, this is part of the pollution that the Buddha discovered, is it's going to want to put itself above people and below people. It's going to look for this pecking order. So you need to get away from that, because that's what animals do. And that's the reason why, as unenlightened human beings, the human mind does this as well. Because when we were a pack of wolves, we needed to know who's the alpha male, who's the alpha female, because they're teaching us how to hunt and how to survive. When we were a herd of elephants, we needed to know who's the matriarch of our herd. Because if we didn't know who the matriarch of our herd was, then we wouldn't survive as elephants, because she was showing us where the food was, where the migration paths were, where the watering holes were. We needed that pecking order. But in the human realm, we don't actually need that. And your mind becomes overactive trying to figure out, is this person below me or is this person above me? Because I need to talk to these people in one way and I need to talk to these people in a different way. But if you can just treat everybody equally and think of yourself as being equal to everybody, now it's just so easy to just treat everybody equally. And now your mind can be at ease. One more thing that I'll say about respect is sometimes people teach, don't respect others until they respect you first. If you've been taught this, this is very, very, very unwise. If everybody was practicing this in the world, nobody would be respecting anybody. Because if I thought, I'm not going to respect you until you respect me, and you thought, well, I'm not going to respect you until you respect me, and now nobody's respecting anybody because nobody's taking the first step. So enlightened beings don't just conform to society and what other people are saying. Instead, they understand that being respectful to others is wise. And if you're interested in people having respect for you, you're going to need to have respect for others, because whatever you put out is going to come back to you. So you can respect people. You're not going to respect the Buddha necessarily when you first get started, but that's something that you can grow and develop in your mind, especially as you start learning more and more of his teachings and you see that they're actually working to improve the condition of your mind and the condition of your life. You'll have nothing but respect for this person. You'll know with 100% certainty that he lived, because as you learn and practice his teachings, they're not based in belief and then hoping something good happens when you die. It's also not rules and commandments. It's also not rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer. It's practical learning and practical techniques that you can apply in your life that are going to help you improve your mind in your life. And as you do that and you see your mind and your relationships improving, you'll get to the point where you have nothing but respect for this person. But that doesn't mean you put yourself below this person. It just means you have appreciation and gratitude for what he did to be able to share his teachings. Any other questions you guys have? No other questions? Okay, let me see what we have here. Hello to everyone online. Let's see. Okay, I don't see any questions online either. Okay, you have a question? Yes, ma'am. Sometimes it just takes one person to break the ice, and next thing you know, we have all kinds of questions coming. Doesn't sound like it's on yet. There you go.
Perfect. Hello. When one reaches the state of enlightenment, is that something that needs to be kept up, or is that you reach it once and then you're in it?
Once you attain enlightenment, it's a permanent mental state. Your mind won't regress backwards from there. In fact, there's 4 stages of enlightenment. Your mind's not actually enlightened until you get to the 4th stage of enlightenment. But even in the first stage of enlightenment, your mind won't regress backwards from there. It'll only be forward progress. But once you get to enlightenment, it's a permanent mental state. While everything in the material world around you is impermanent and constantly changing, these are called conditioned objects. They arise, change, and fade away. This is anything that you can see, hear, smell, taste, anything that comes in contact with the body, or any thoughts or ideas that go through the mind. This is all impermanent. It's constantly changing. Those are called conditioned objects. They arise, change, and fade away. But there's things in the world called unconditioned objects that they don't arise, they don't change, and they don't fade away. Enlightenment is this way. There's no condition that is producing enlightenment, so therefore there's nothing that can take that away. By the time you get to enlightenment, you've removed the causes and conditions that are producing anger, sadness, frustration, and others. In the unenlightened state, you have a conditioned mind, so you experience conditioned feelings that based on some condition, you'll now experience pleasant feelings, painful feelings, or neither painful nor pleasant feelings. But by the time you get to enlightenment, you've purified the mind of all those conditions, all those pollutions, and you now have an unconditioned mind where there doesn't need to be any condition met in order for the peace and the joy to be in the mind. So in the unenlightened state, you might wake up in the morning and see it's sunny outside and get really happy and excited because you maybe want to go hiking today on a hiking trail. But when you go take a shower and you come out and you see it's raining, you'll be sad or frustrated because you base your feeling on the condition of the sun. But an enlightened being doesn't experience that. The enlightened being, when they wake up in the morning, their mind's already happy. There doesn't need to be any condition met. And when they see it's sunny, they're also happy. They're not happy because of the sun, but they're already happy before they even saw the sun. And now maybe they're interested in going hiking, and it's like, sweet, I'm going to call my friends. This is going to be a great time. We'll go hiking. But then when you go take a shower and you come out as an enlightened being, if it's raining, you won't be upset because your happiness wasn't based on the sun. It's like, oh, okay, well, it's raining now, so I guess I'll stay home and read a book, or I'll go to the mall, or maybe I'll invite my friends over and we can eat some food. I'll make some food for my friends. You can maintain your happiness. You can maintain your joy because it's unconditioned. There isn't any condition that's met in order for you to experience that. So you wake up peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. All day long, you're peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, and you go to sleep peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy as an enlightened being because your mind is experiencing these unconditioned mental qualities instead of these conditioned feelings that arise, change, and fade away. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
I have a question. So I understand that it is good to be not feel upset by the conditional things. I'm just wondering that the happiness in the world, for example, I want to eat delicious food, I want to travel to different places, I want to meet interesting people, something like that. All the happiness is conditional from outside. If the happiness is not from them, it's actually from inside of myself, I will not pursue anything. I may just stay in my room. I can eat whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't care about the weather. I don't care about the people. I don't care the place I stay. I may do nothing because I don't need happiness from outside. Is that understand correct?
This is what people often think, but it's actually not true. People think that if they're not chasing after these pleasant feelings, then what's the motivation in life, right? And they think that their mind will swing to the other side. And your mind might swing to the other side. That's what the Buddha's mind did when he was training as well. But that's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to come to the middle where you're gradually pursuing your goals, objectives, or interests through wise decision making. So right now in the unenlightened state, you will pursue things based in craving, where you want more money, or you want a bigger house, or you want a nicer car, and you'll chase after that stuff. Right? But you'll only chase as long as that craving is there. If that craving burns out, you'll be unmotivated and you'll swing to the other side. That's what you're able to see as an unenlightened being. You can see these two sides, the chasing or the dullness and lethargic and laziness. Those are the two different sides. But the Buddha is teaching you to come to the middle where you're pursuing your goals, objectives, or interests through wise decision making. But you need to be able to make sure you understand what a goal is. If you get happy when you accomplish your goal and you get sad when you don't accomplish your goal, that's not a goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment masquerading as a goal because you're forming your feelings based on whether you get it or not. And you can only chase after that thing as long as you have the craving. But if you have a goal, which is a true goal, you can be making your way towards this. And let's just say you're 80% of the way there. You haven't met your goal yet. You can maintain your happiness. You can maintain your joy. And you can look at it and say, 80% of my way there. You know what? I could actually extend my timeline and give myself more time to be able to meet this goal. I could add more resources to this and try to maybe able to accomplish it that way. Or you know what? I'm fine with the 80%. I don't need to go any further. And now you can maintain your peace and your joy. That's a true goal, right? But if you're getting what you want and you're happy, and you're not getting what you want and you're sad, that's not a goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment. And this is why you've done things in your life where maybe like a hobby or an activity or a job, when you first started doing it, you were so excited about it and you put a lot of effort into it, but then eventually your craving burned out and you were unmotivated and you swung to the other side. Right? That's what your mind does right now. And that's why you can see those two sides. But what the Buddha is teaching you is how to come to the middle where you can have enthusiasm, ambition, and motivation to be able to pursue your goals, but you don't base your feelings on whether you accomplish it or not. If you ask me, I think the Buddha had the most ambitious goal that ever existed in all of mankind, right? Because 2,500 years ago, when the language that he spoke was very limited just to the region of the world that he was in, and travel wasn't very common, he had the goal that his teachings would reach the entire world. That's his goal 2,500 years ago. And he knew it was utterly impossible for this to occur during his lifetime because there wasn't an international language. Travel wasn't so easy, right? To be able to move around the world and teach people. He knew it was going to be much later. So he was working towards this goal that he knew he was never going to accomplish during his lifetime. It was going to accomplish later. And that's what we're doing now. Look at his teachings, reaching the entire world. We have someone from Italy, someone from the US, people from China, people from France. We have people all over the world right here in one spot learning his teachings. So you can have a goal that you work towards, and he worked towards this goal from the age of 35 to the age of 80 once he got to enlightenment, and it never burned out because he had wise decision-making, ambition, and enthusiasm, where if you only pursue things based in craving, yeah, when your cravings burned out, you'll swing to the other side. But that's not where you would like to be. You would like to be in the middle to gradually pursue things with ambition and motivation and enthusiasm. And that's what you can train your mind to do. It might be hard for you to think about that now because you haven't experienced that, but that's ultimately what you can do as you train your mind on this path.
Yeah, thank you very much. And also, I just follow up a question that, does that mean if I have a true goal and I once I have it, I just have a mindset that I will give it a go, and if I just have a true goal, I want to do that, I will take actions. But if I don't have the expectations. If I didn't reach the level I want to be, that's okay. So kind of mindset, just set the goals, make the plans, and take the actions, but don't really attach to the results and the outcomes. Just focus on the things I want to do and the process doing that.
Yeah, that's what you would do, right? Is that if I'll use example we were talking about before class. I decided in 2005 that I would like to move to Thailand. That was my decision. I'd come here the first time in 2002. I had decided by 2005 on my second visit, I would like to live here for the rest of my life, right? And then slowly but surely, I had to make decisions towards that goal, which I ultimately achieved in 2015 when I was able to move here, right? If it was a longing, a yearning, and a craving, and that craving would have burned out, I would have given up on the goal, right? But instead, I was very persistent that I knew that this is something that was good for me. It was good for my family. It was something that I was really interested in. And I just continued to chip away at it little by little each day. I was doing other things too, because I had other goals as well. But slowly but surely, I was working towards this goal. And then ultimately, I was able to move here a lot sooner than I anticipated, because the ultimate goal was to come in 2018, but I ended up being able to come here in 2015. So we got here a couple years earlier. So if I would have had a craving that burned out, I would have never continued to pursue that, right? So you would like to be able to pursue your goals long term, because that's where you can build up the most momentum to be able to accomplish what it is that you're going to accomplish. Because life is not a sprint, right? It's not like a 9-second sprint. It's not like the 100-yard dash, right? It's a long-term thing. It's like multiple marathons to live this life as you are. So you're going to need to have consistent, wise decisions day after day after day, working towards an ultimate goal where you're building up your life more and more. And if you're just chasing after something for 6 months just to get your pleasant feelings, and then you're chasing after something else for 2 or 3 years just to get your pleasant feelings, and then you're chasing after something else, but then you kind of give up and you kind of swing to the other side and you're dull and lethargic, your mind will jump around. It's kind of like a rabbit instead of just going straight to what it is that you're working on to accomplish. And that's where you're going to have the most success in your life. Because if you're only chasing after things to get what you want, you're going to make a lot of unwise decisions. And this is what people do, is they chase after those pleasant feelings. And now in the process of chasing, they end up making a lot of unwise decisions. And even when you get what you want, ultimately it's kind of becomes boring after that. It's kind of like a dog chasing a rabbit. It'll chase the rabbit and catch it and kill it, but then it won't even eat it because it's just kind of bored with it. It just enjoyed the chase, right? So that's what the unenlightened mind does, is it enjoys the chase, but then once it gets what it wants, it kind of gets bored with it, right? And you need to learn how to enjoy the gradual, consistent learning and growing and developing to build up a wonderful life for yourself, because this is a much more stable life than just jumping around from thing to thing to thing to thing.
Understand. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
I have a simple question. Sometimes I just feel depressed or unhappy for nothing, or maybe there is a happy thing happened today and I solved it, or I thought I solved it. I push away my bad feelings, but then my condition isn't very well later for maybe the whole day. I can adjust myself the other day. I want to know how can I solve this problem by meditation or other ways.
Sure. Let me switch over to some visual aids here to be able to show you something. Oops, there it is. So this is the core central teaching of the Buddha. This is called the Eightfold Path. You would need to learn this inside and out, backwards and forwards, left, right, up, down. This is the path to enlightenment. This is how you actually train your mind to get to enlightenment. This is just an image, but behind each one of these, there's actually teachings that I share. In fact, this week coming up, Monday through Friday, from 9 to 3, I'm going to be teaching all the foundational teachings that it takes to be able to get to enlightenment. And on Tuesday morning, I'm going to be teaching this, where I'm going to show you the ins and outs of how to actually move your mind to enlightenment. This is just kind of like a little bit of a talk, a little bit of questions and answers. But when I'm teaching in classes, we go really in depth with the teaching, right? So you're going to need to learn this. It takes about 2.5 hours, 3 hours for me to teach it to you. Then you're going to need to learn it multiple times and really commit it to your memory. Getting to enlightenment, it's not like a 1-day thing, a 1-week thing, or a 1-year thing. It's not something that I can teach you in a 3-minute exchange here. But over time, you can gradually train your mind to gradually practice these teachings, and you can gradually progress. So there's more than just meditation that you need. You're going to need all of these factors here and understanding what each one is and how to apply them in your life. And then there's things beyond this too. So it took the Buddha 6 years to get to enlightenment. So it's going to take you some time. But the beauty about this is that it's a permanent solution, that your mind is never going to regress out of this mental state once you attain it. So it's kind of like, when you climb a mountain, it's a really challenging climb. And when you get to the top, it's a beautiful view. It's fresh air. It's like, wow, it's really great. Nice scenery. But ultimately, you have to come back down from the mountain, right? This is different, that you need to climb this mountain, and it's going to take you some time to climb it. But once you get up there, you get to stay up there and enjoy the view and the fresh air for the rest of your life. So there's going to need to be some consistent effort and dedication and determination to learning, growing, and developing on the path. And that's what's going to produce enlightenment. So one of the ways to think about it is that you need to attain enlightenment. Another way to think about it is that the mind is already enlightened and you need this teaching to be able to clear out the pollution so that the qualities of the enlightened mind can shine through more and more. So I apologize that I can't teach it to you in just a few minutes, but if you would like to get started on this path to be able to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again, I suggest you start with this first book. You can actually get it for free. You can download it from our website. You can take it and go print it yourself. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can order it on Amazon. And if you start with this first book, I teach classes and I live stream them all throughout the month. And you can, no matter where you are in the world, you can attend classes here. And if you can't attend live, you can watch the recordings and you can get help with all the resources that I share, even personal guidance where I'll sit down with you and help you either online or in person to be able to gradually learn these teachings. And I do it at no cost because I know with 100% certainty that these teachings are going to lead to your enlightenment if you actually learn and practice them. And it's like discovering the cure to cancer that I'm interested in giving it away to everybody for free, right? So this is something that will absolutely work for you, but you need to penetrate into it to be able to see it for yourself. I can't, just insert it into your mind. You're going to need to apply the effort to learn it. But this is what you would like to start with. That's what's going to get your mind to the point where it can always be cheerful, glad, bright, and uplifted, where you don't experience these ups and downs and ups and downs. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. I don't see any other questions. Let me just check online here. Okay, I don't see any questions anywhere. So, you have a question? Yes, sir. Sounds like the mic's still on.
Still on. So my question is a bit more of a technical question, maybe in terms of Buddhism. So if the Buddha was alive 2,500 years ago, in Buddhism, do they believe that the Buddha was the only enlightened person to ever live? And related to that, in Buddhism, do they believe that, is there anyone on earth enlightened right now?
In the teachings of the Buddha, there's no such thing as a belief. You never believe anything, because with belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it. Either somebody convinced you to believe it or you convinced yourself to believe it. So you need to be able to peer into this and be able to see the truth for yourself. So I know that the Buddha was enlightened for sure, because his teachings from 2,500 years ago have led to people that are enlightened today, right? There's people that are enlightened today. If you understand what enlightenment is, you'll be able to know when other people are actually enlightened, or even yourself. You'll know that your mind is actually enlightened. So I can't say what other people think. All I can do is tell you what I know. And what I know for sure is that the Buddha was enlightened. Whether there were people before him that were enlightened, I don't know. What the Buddha says is that he was the discoverer, the declarer, the originator of the path to enlightenment, undeclared before him. And he was essentially the one who discovered this path, right? So whether there were people before him that were enlightened or not, that's not something we'll ever know, because we don't have that ability. And if there were, great. And if there weren't, okay, fine. At the end of the day, in the present moment, you're in this human state. Your mind is discontent, and you would like to solve that. There are definitely people that are enlightened now, today. You can see, I don't know what your experiences have been like in Thailand, but not everybody in Thailand is enlightened, of course, but Thai people are well on the path. And this is why you experience so much peacefulness here. And that's why the people are very generous and very appreciative and very respectful, because they're practicing these teachings. When I first came to Thailand in 2002, I realized that I had entered into a new world. It was kind of like, for those of you guys that know The Wizard of Oz, it was like Dorothy going to a new place, and it was like, oh my gosh, I'm not in Kansas anymore, right? It was like that type of effect. When I came to Thailand, I was like, whoa, this place is completely different from where I grew up and what I experienced as a kid. And the more I peered into it to try to figure out why the Thai people are so joyful, so cheerful, so friendly, so polite, it always came back to Buddhism. And this is how you can see that these teachings actually work. And the more you understand what enlightenment is, and you are in an environment like this where people are practicing the teachings, you can encounter people who are enlightened. But an enlightened being will never tell you that they are enlightened. They're also not going to tell you they're not enlightened, because that would be a lie. But if you know what enlightenment is, you'll be able to identify other people that are enlightened. But that's not the ultimate goal of the path. The ultimate goal of the path is for you to get to enlightenment and you to work on that. That's what's going to produce the benefit for you. Okay. Yes. Looks like your girlfriend has a question too.
I wrote, is Buddhism mainly based on mental thought? Because I hear you say the word think a lot. And I'm wondering where in this is there room for the human experience when it comes to grief and your nervous system and emotions? And apart from that...
Let me just answer one at a time.
Yes, sorry.
That's all right. What was the first one that you asked?
I said, is Buddhism mainly based on mental thought, like thinking your way out of the human experience, basically?
One of the ways that you might think about Buddhism is like it's a self-help program to do this inner work, this inner growth, this inner development. And it's been around for 2,500 years for a reason, because it actually works. So it's a self-help program to do this inner work, this inner discovery, to become a better and better person. That's what Buddhism is.
Yeah, I don't know too much about Buddhism other than impermanence. That's the word that comes up. But what advice would you give to someone who is new to meditation and maybe they are going through personal things and they are dysregulated? They have a hard time sitting.
I would recommend that they get a teacher, someone that they have confidence in, because there's only one type of person that would be able to get to enlightenment without a teacher, and that would be a Buddha. And that type of person is very rare in the world. So I would encourage that person to find someone that they trust and they have confidence in. They can build a relationship with that person, and then they can be guided, because they're going to need more than just one guidance. They're going to need multiple guidance along the way, because there's more than just meditation that you need. And I remember your second question was about, is there space for human experience and grief, right? Something along those lines. Yeah. So what you're used to now of grieving and thinking that that's normal, it's actually normal for an unenlightened being. For an enlightened being, they're not going to experience grief. It's not that they're pushing it down or they're repressing it or suppressing it or anything like that, but the causes and conditions that produce it are no longer exist in the mind. And that's not being less human. That's actually being more human. Because, for example, if somebody dies and you grieve, the only thing that's happening there is your mind is holding on and craving permanence. That's it. But oftentimes people think it's love. Love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. And the fact that this person has died, it doesn't produce actual grief. I'll share something with you so you can see this. I would never make light of somebody dying, right? But when you go outside and you experience there's no wind blowing, you don't get sad or sorrowful because there's no wind, right? And when you're walking down the street and the wind is blowing, you don't get sad and sorrowful and grieve about that, right? All that's happened here is change, that it went from no wind to wind, right? It's just change. And that's actually what's happening when someone dies, that someone was alive and now they're dead. This is a normal thing that happens every single day. But the mind craving permanence doesn't see it that way. The mind holds on and it wants this person to be permanent. And when they're no longer in your life, the mind holding on and craving permanence, it grieves and it's sorrowful because it's not getting what it wants. So you can get to a point where when your people that are close to you are dying, that you don't grieve and you're not sorrow and sad. That doesn't mean you didn't love them. What it means is that your mind wasn't holding on and craving permanence. So instead of being chopped off at the knees or feeling like someone pulled the carpet out from under your feet, because that's what people can feel like when someone close to them dies, instead, you can maintain your appreciation and your gratitude that you had this person in your life rather than being sorrowful and sad. But you can't do that if your mind's holding on and craving permanence. So the more you train your mind, you can experience death very differently than maybe what you have in the past, that you can experience death with appreciation and gratitude and understanding that you're thankful that this person was in your life for the period of time that they were in your life and not feel like you've lost something. In fact, this is what people do, particularly in America. If you say, oh, my grandfather died or my mother died, they'll say, oh, I'm sorry for your loss, right? My grandmother died last year, and she was the most influential person in my entire life. And nobody said to me, I'm sorry for your loss. Instead, and I even sent out a Facebook post and I let people know that there's no loss here. I didn't lose anything. I gained something amazing, that I had this woman in my life for 51 years, right? Ever since I was born, she lived until I was 51 years old. I didn't grieve when she died, and not because I didn't love her, but because I understood she's impermanent. She was born and she's going to need to die. And I trained my mind to not crave for her to be permanent. But I had a lot of appreciation and gratitude. So you experience death differently because you have a different relationship with death, and you understand that every single one of us are going to die. So it's not about ignoring the human experience or suppressing your feelings or anything like that. It's understanding that grief and sorrow and sadness isn't actually normal for an enlightened being, that you can get to the point where you don't experience that, and it's a much better way of life. That's what the Buddha said when he got to enlightenment, is he said, I've discovered a better way of life. He didn't say I discovered a new religion. He said, I discovered a better way of life. And here's that better way of life. And if you'd like to learn it, here it is, right? And now when you train your mind and you practice it, it's like, whoa, this is much better. Because I've had people close to me die, and I was torn apart. When I was 16 years old, my girlfriend died, my very first girlfriend. I was torn apart, right, for multiple years, right? And then my grandfather died when I was in my early 20s, and I grieved for about 3 months, right? The next person that died was my stepfather. No grief whatsoever. I wasn't attached to him. My mom died in 2017. No grief whatsoever because I wasn't attached to her. I loved her. And then my grandmother died last year, right? No grief, because I understood that these people are not permanent. And this is what an individual can experience. And you just maintain your appreciation and gratitude that this person was in your life. Yep.
I understand. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And it can sound very foreign. It can sound very different for people. In fact, I've had students go to funerals that have been training their mind, and some of their family members are angry at them because they're not grieving. And their family members think that you didn't love grandma because you're not crying, right? And that's their perception. They don't understand that that's not actually true. So an individual has to peer into this and see this for themselves. They can't believe what I'm saying, but you can see this if you decide to look at it closely. But sometimes it sounds so foreign to people that they don't even take the time to peer into it. But if you guys are interested, there's help for you guys to be able to experience this better way of life. So I'll just end here by thanking you guys. Thank you for your interest to learn and understand the teachings of the Buddha. If you guys would like to learn more, there's opportunities for you to do that. You can check our bulletin board over there. You can check our website. You'll find lots of information there. And then you can even come talk to me, and I'll help you get plugged into these teachings so that you can learn how to train your mind to get to this point where it's completely peaceful and joyful, and you can heal from what's hurting you so that you never need to hurt ever again. So have a lovely rest of your day, and perhaps we'll see you next time. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.